ladies and gentlemen, make sure you follow us
on
the TikTok, on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. Is that it?
Apple Podcast now, you said.
Apple Podcasts, Spotify, at the NGW Podcast for all the ones where we do the short form. Spotify is just the Next Goal Wins podcast, and YouTube is also the Next Goal Wins podcast.
We should do a tweet along.
But listen, we've had a lot of requests, surprisingly, to keep Joe in the podcast and to remove you from the podcast.
The plot thickens. Dun, 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 dun.
Who the people need to step up?
I'm just going to use your sources, like the internet. Same sources that you use for all of your Darwin Nunez statistics.
Darwin Nunez, Premier League website.
Or we just make a rule: every time Darwin scores, you can come back. Every time he doesn't,
I'll be back every week.
Would you put your career?
I will be back every single goal and assist.
Should we start with Darwin Nunez and beating Argentina?
Wherever you guys want to
start. International break. So we just watched some of the international games today. Two of them, really. We watched the highlights on the Brazil-Colombia. We watched the actual game of Uruguay versus Argentina, and then we just finished watching United States versus Trinidad and Tobago. So where do you want to start? Which of those three games do you want to start? We can start with Nunez and get him out of the way.
No, we can start United States because the most recent.
Fantastic. Joe, go on.
That was a stressful 90 minutes. I shouldn't say stressful 90 minutes. When did we score our first goal? 85th minute or so?
Joe was stressing.
I was stressed out. Especially at home.
We almost didn't record. We almost didn't record the podcast because
if we didn't pull it out, I was out of here. I was no chance I was going to come back and sit here and talk about it. But no, it was stressful. We did not look that great. We did finish a few chances at the end, thank goodness. But we need to figure something out going forward because at home against a 10-man Trinidad and Tobago, it shouldn't be coming down to.
Should we put a picture of your boy? Should we put a picture of your boy Hackshaw on screen?
No, don't talk about my boy like that. he did work when he came on. 9 out of 12 passing.
That's not very good. No, that's not very good.
What?
Could have been worse.
9 out of 12 passing is 75% passing accuracy.
Okay.
75% passing accuracy as a holding center mid is terrible.
Now when you're a man down and you're literally just clearing the ball and doing all that. That's context.
No. 75% passing accuracy is not good.
With a man down against a much better United States.
Don't care. There's still 9 other guys on the...
Watching it, you were not thinking he was playing this well.
No, I don't... Personally, I don't think he was playing well. But when I look at the stats and it says 9 out of 12 passing...
You're like, it wasn't as bad as
you wasn't as bad as it makes it seem like. Just because, again, the context matters. If you're a man down...
Here's the context.
And you come on at halftime to try and literally defend, which I don't know about his defending. However, it is...
Here's the context. United States was up a player for the majority of the game, and it was only until the last 10 minutes that they finally scored the goal. What does that say, Joe, going forward to...
I think it shows that without Weah and without Pulisic, we really struggle at creating chances, that they are a necessity in the team for us to have a chance of...
Were those the only
winning games?
Were those the only two players missing? I think so, right?
Tyler Adams, you could argue because he could have slid in, but then you have to take out McKinney or Reyna.
Are you happy with the United States and where they're at right now?
I think happy would be an overstatement. I'm okay with it because at least it appears we're going to qualify for Copa America, and I guess I would rather answer that question after we play some real competition and some competitive matches. But watching what we did against Germany, no, wasn't happy about it. However, we are finally moving, I think, in the right direction and have talent and have younger talent coming, so we'll see. But I wouldn't call it happy, no.
So stats from this game.
Ooh.
First half, before, they got the red card,
37th minute, I think.
So let's say first half it was 11v11. 7 shots, 0 on target for United States. Trinidad, 0 shots, I think the whole entire game. Second half, 19 shots overall, 8 on target. So overall, the whole entire game, 26 total shots for the United States, 8 shots on target with 75% possession.
The fact that we had that many shots not go on target didn't seem like that watching the game. But now
hold on, that was the first. That was not the whole game.
26 shots total.
Overall, the whole game, 26 shots.
8 on target.
But those 8 came probably in the last 10, 15 minutes of the game.
Probably.
All in the second half. Yeah. I don't know the exact timing of it, but I mean, it felt like it was going to come at some point.
What does the United States need for you to be happy?
to be good enough to go out there and us expect to win games against good competition. So against Trinidad, I did not expect that to be close at all, and the fact that it was close for so long. The final scoreline, when you look at it, 3-0 at home. All right, we did what we needed to do. We should win the second leg and advance. But for me to be happy, I would need us to show consistent progression where against teams like that, with 11v11, we bossed the game like we did in the second half against 10 players. And then against, I would say, teams that I think we have the same talent level as, maybe like a Netherlands or something like that, I would like to see us compete and be in the game. Because going back to the World Cup in that game, we weren't in it.
Fair enough.
What about you guys?
Yeah, what about you, Javi? What can United States do to make you happy? That's the question.
George is just asking me this question because I was just ripping them apart throughout the whole
Literally ripping them apart the whole game.
I don't know what it is.
Sack them all.
Who do you think plays well on the United States team? Let's start there from an individual basis.
Musa, I think, is probably the best player for what he contributes to the team. And I think he's one of those players that you can. Musa's one of those players that you can see what you're going to get. You know what you're going to get from him in every single game.
Yep.
That's the problem with, I think, the majority of the United States, aside from maybe Tim Ream and Musa. I'm trying to think of anybody else
who's super consistent.
Yeah, aside from that,
maybe Weah, but
yeah, but still, even Weah,
just from an attacking run standpoint and creating chances, even if he doesn't get goals.
Yeah, I think the majority of the United States men's national team players are very inconsistent. And some of them can have some very good performances. And for me, to be honest, most of the time it's pretty disappointing.
Yeah.
For at least the hype that's been built around them, because the majority of them are now playing in Europe on good teams. And even like Balogun, even him coming from Arsenal and like all of the hype that was around him, the fact that for me, he was never really going to ever see minutes at Arsenal, and they still hyped him like as if he was this amazing target striker that was going to win us a World Cup or whatever. I don't even think he's been very good. I think he's been better than, probably like you said earlier, better than what the United States national team has right now. But I think that's the problem with the United States men's national team is the consistency. There's just not much of it. So that's why that's why you were pretty upset for the majority of the game until they finally broke through.
Yeah, because you should be winning that game pretty easily. And yes, again, the scoreline shows that it looks that way, but it didn't. Didn't feel that way.
Here's what bothers me as well is that they can play like this, and for me, they're not as good as I think they probably should be given the players that they have on the team, and yet they're still better than the Mexican national team at this moment.
Yeah, and they get results that look easy like that, and that's the other part. I feel like because of where we play, we're not tested enough. Where you should lose a game like that from the performance I think that you put in, or at least draw and feel some type of way about it. But you're not probably feeling that way now if you're a player.
Yeah,
you finished the game, you got the 3 points, you have a 3-goal lead on aggregate.
And I think as a fan, it scares you a little bit knowing that if you were actually playing against a better team, that game would have gone the other way.
That's exactly 100%.
Yeah. Where
I think then it's on Berhalter to make sure that the boys have that mentality of we shouldn't have necessarily advanced in that game. We have a ton to work on. We have a ton to improve. So, and clearly everyone in the United States has a lot of confidence in Greg Berhalter at the moment. So,
but the thing is, you have to take care of what's in front of you, right? Like you can't, like we're judging them based on if they played somebody better.
Yeah. They got the job done, is what you're saying. They got the job done.
Like, should they probably completely destroy maybe 5, 6, 7 goals in the second half against 10 men Trinidad? Probably. Maybe early on you score and it's a lot easier. But like you just felt like it was coming at some point. And then once the first one went in, it was like fairly easy after that to keep scoring. So it's because you could also find the positive of it, where at least they did get the result. They didn't get impatient. They didn't lose their heads. So like, in terms of could they play better? Yeah, but in the end, you went like, how much is this game really gonna matter long term? If you after now it's 3-0, nobody's gonna really care about this. If you go into, you go to Trinidad and then you win 2-3-0 whatever, and then you qualify, and then you do really well in the World Cup, nobody's gonna care about this. Like,
Yeah, well, I think the problem with the United States and also Mexico is because we're in CONCACAF, and typically, up until recently, where Canada's been one of the better teams, it's always been just Mexico and the United States. And so we don't have, when we actually play matches that matter, we only play against CONCACAF, right? Unless we're doing friendlies or World Cup or the actual tournaments. So I think it bothers people, the fact that we are supposed to be competing against European countries when we actually go to World Cups and these big tournaments. And when we play against CONCACAF opponents, they don't do very well or they struggle to beat them. So that's why it's scary, because you watch these games and you're like, crap, how are we supposed to compete against some of these European teams if we can't even get past these teams right here?
And it sucks because even if you play friendlies,
It's not the same.
I don't want to say nobody takes it serious, but it's definitely not the same.
Right.
Yeah.
So the other game, let's go into Brazil versus Colombia. We didn't watch, we just watched the highlights. But your boy Luis Diaz, Liverpool, once again.
Yeah, 2 goals. 2 goals in the space of 5 minutes, 73rd and 78th or something of the sort, to come back. His dad in the stands, obviously.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I think it's just one of those nights where it's meant to be against one of the best teams in the world. Being 1-0 down at home, the whole stadium rocking, waiting for you to, make the comeback, and you do. You scored 2 goals, and obviously getting your dad back from a few weeks of uncertainty of whether he's going to live or not, whether you're ever going to see him again, and just like one of those things that was really nicely. And obviously we saw some of the videos where his dad's like in the stands crying, and
even some of the Colombian players are crying after the game, right?
Yeah, so it's a very nice moment for him personally, for Colombia overall. It just all came together for them.
And they're looking pretty good. Colombia's looking pretty good.
Yeah.
They're definitely in one of their stronger times than in the past. And then let's just get straight into it. Your boy, Darwin Nunez.
He's been waiting all.
Darwin Nunez.
It's not much to say.
So he misses one, I wouldn't say easy chance, but one chance that you probably should put away.
At least put it on target.
Yeah, at least put it on target. And then he finally scores.
Yeah.
And then they beat Argentina, which, what was the stat again about them not losing?
55 in that stadium.
So they played, so we'll talk about, so at some point we're going to have to talk about Taylor Swift on this podcast,
of course.
right?
Taylor Swift over Messi.
So the Taylor Swift concert in Argentina was this past weekend, right? A couple of days ago. So they had to move. Was it today? It wasn't today, right? It's just because it was so close in time.
I don't know if it was today or not. It made
moved
it seem like it was today, from what I read.
So they moved the Argentina versus Uruguay game because the Taylor Swift concert was held at Argentina's home stadium. And so they moved it to Boca Juniors Stadium, La Bombonera, and they played there. And according to Georgie's, I can't say whether they're real statistics or imaginary statistics. Yeah, according to his...
It says 1 day ago.
Yeah, I think it was
so yesterday then?
So anyway, according to Georgie's uncle or whoever it is that's giving him these statistics, Argentina hasn't lost in 55 matches at La Bombonera.
Until Darwin Nunez showed up.
Until Darwin Nunez.
The whole Uruguay team is looking really good. Since Bielsa took over, they've been... now they're in second place. Argentina's in top, but they look completely different. And I think we talked about it in the podcast before where it might suit him to coach a national team, where he can be really, really aggressive with them for a week or two, and then they can just go away for a few weeks and then come back. And just because he's way too aggressive to keep the players at that intensity for a whole entire season, where they're going to break down at some point. Where I feel like now with this Uruguay team, it's kind of perfect fitting. So
yeah,
so looking good.
Good performance for your boy, and once again he scores, which is good because the more consistent he is with scoring, that's the one argument that people have over him.
Against the best goalkeeper in the world. Don't forget that.
Technically against the best goalkeeper in the world.
I don't think it.
But that's the one thing that people have against Darwin Nunez is that he doesn't score enough goals. Everyone talks about he's becoming a better hold-up striker, his runs, his movement, all of that stuff, but he just can't score goals, which is, like we said, the most important thing about being a striker. And now, but see, so back to that argument, because I did want to make one point. People brought up a good example, and they said Giroud in the World Cup in France, where he scored like no goals, but helped with the way that he
started
played.
6 out of the 7 games.
However, the difference for me is that Darwin Nunez, like incorporating him into that Liverpool team, was not so that he could become an Olivier Giroud and do that for the team. It was for him to score goals. So that's where I take that's where I say it's different. Like Giroud, everyone knew what his role was. It wasn't really to score goals, like you said. It wasn't really to score goals, but it was to make it easier for the team to do well and to get up the field and good hold up player and create chances and things like that. Whereas Nunez is not really that player. He's only become that player because he's missed a lot of opportunities. So that's like the argument that you have for him.
Wait.
Do you know what I'm saying?
No.
Do you know what I'm saying?
No. That argument had nothing to do with Darwin Núñez, by the way. From TikTok. Did you post it?
I just said about scoring goals, right? The one about scoring goals.
There was no mention of Darwin Núñez in the argument, but you just brought Darwin Núñez. You said you said no striker in that argument. You said a striker is brought in to do one thing only.
No, I didn't say that. Don't put words into my mouth. I said the most important thing about strikers is scoring goals.
Yes.
And I agree. So I think even France would opt for a better striker who could score more goals.
Okay, but let me ask you this. Target strikers, right? Big, tall guys are not there just to score goals. And they're strikers, and then they're number 9.
Yeah, I'm not saying that they're only there to score goals. I'm saying that's an important part of being a striker.
He's saying if you had to rank out all the things that they do at the top of the list, should be scoring goals.
I think
it depends on the system.
Giroud was a clear example of the fact that like there's a certain system in place for him to do something other than also score goals. However, even Giroud, long term, would not keep that position if he didn't score goals. At some point, they're going to say we need someone who can do that, but also who's going to score goals because we're kind of wasting a little bit of a position there. So that's all I'm saying. But Giroud's a good example of what you were trying to say, where it's like that's not for him. That wasn't the priority, was it? It worked out for them. I'm saying for Nunez, that wasn't why they brought him in, and he just ended up doing that because he wasn't scoring goals and he was missing sitters. That's all I'm saying. But I could see your point. I could see your point as to what you were trying to make. However, your wording was terrible, asking us to define scoring goals.
The context in that was you said the most important thing about a striker is scoring goals.
Yes,
of course they're going to score goals. Like define what scoring goals to you means. Like is it 30
you were
goals?
saying the amount. You were saying the amount of goals.
It has to. You have to put it into context.
Yeah.
Because Firmino at Liverpool, he's the number 9. He played in the false 9. He scored 15 goals the most tops. And then Salah scoring 30. He doesn't have to be the main goal scorer.
Yeah.
Benzema when Ronaldo was there, same thing. He passed maybe twice over like 12 goals in La Liga when Ronaldo was there. After that, then he started scoring. So it just depends on the system.
I want to give you credit because I think Nunez is finally starting to be consistent with his goals, where it's not like one every 10 games or whatever. I don't think it was that ever, but it was pretty far apart, and he was missing a lot more opportunities.
You ready for another crazy stat?
Well, here we go.
He's been doing his research.
Here we go.
He's been buried in his phone.
This is more. I mean, no. It's not.
Go on.
Well, kind of. Do you think Luis Suarez is a good striker?
Yeah, I think he was a pretty good striker.
Do you think he's a good striker? Like not right now, but like
in his prime,
in his career, in his prime,
like at Liverpool, for example, at Liverpool.
Yes, I will say yes to your baiting question, Georgie.
Yes.
Tell us why we're wrong.
In 56 games, in the first 50 whatever games of Darwin and Suarez, they have the same exact goals. Mm-hmm. That's pretty interesting.
Okay.
Can I have a card?
Let Joe have a go first.
When Suarez was
at Liverpool,
when he was guarded the first 50 games, when Suarez was guarded as like, I don't want to say the best striker in the world at the time, but
yeah, but he was.
How would you compare the two teams that they both played on?
I would say Suarez's team wasn't as good as this one.
Does that change your?
That was going to be my argument as well.
Like Suarez, from what I remember, I'm trying to think back to his first 50s.
Yeah, it was him and Gerrard.
Was that before Sturridge came?
They played together.
Okay, because that was their whole team.
Yeah,
he did everything.
Sturridge and Suarez.
I would be interested. Are you talking about just goals? What about all in between goals and assists? Because I do remember Sturridge scored just as many goals as Suarez.
Sturridge scored a lot. Sturridge is amazing.
They all came from Suarez. Suarez was unbelievable.
Gerrard, I think in those years, Gerrard had the most assists in the Premier League.
I think because, to Joe's point, because of the amount of weight that Suarez carried that team on his back, I think that's why I would say Suarez was probably a little bit better, regardless of the goals, because he didn't have a good team, and he was the only thing, well, not the only thing, but he was one of the only things keeping Liverpool.
I'm trying to think some of the other players. Wasn't that when you guys had Mignolet and...
Yep. Mignolet,
That team was it wasn't the greatest
Was
time
that
for
the
Liverpool.
slip? That was the slip year.
That was one
So
of the slip
so
years,
Suarez almost single-handedly took you to
Suarez, by the way,
a Premier League title.
It might not be that year, but
Suarez-
Right
but-
around that time,
Yeah,
though,
it
I
has
would
to
assume.
be.
Because, yeah, you had to have Suarez, I would assume.
another stat during the Ronaldo and Messi dominance, Suarez was, I don't know if he was the only player, but 2 of those years he won the Golden Boot for the most amount of goals in
In La Liga?
wait.
No,
he
in
must have been
Liverpool.
at
Liverpool.
then.
Yeah,
Oh, when he was at Liverpool still?
Yeah. That's pretty crazy as well,
is
because
definitely-
those are the times where Messi scored. I mean, that wasn't the same year, but that was around the time when Messi and Ronaldo were at their prime,
We're
where
going
Messi
crazy.
scored however many goals in a calendar year. That was crazy.
Suarez did have one really crazy year at Liverpool where he
Yeah.
scored tons of
Every
goals.
time he touched the ball.
It was insane.
What game was it when he had his hat trick? I think he had...
Norwich.
You know,
Wasn't it
the
Norwich?
3 goals I'm talking about were each one of them was unbelievable.
Crazy.
So I think those are the only 3 games that we watched for the international break, and then there's still a couple more tomorrow. Just a quick little detour, since we were talking about the United States national team, and I know you guys don't know much about this. I don't know much about this either, but I thought it'd be interesting to mention. The United States women's national team got rid of their coach, right? Vlatko.
They didn't do well in the World Cup, right?
No,
Or
so
did
they lost in the
final?
semifinals, was it?
No, it was the round of 16. The men and the women bounced the same
Was it?
round. Yeah, for like... first in a while.
So not a good performance, right? Lots of hype because they were the defending champions, right? And then they don't do well. They were the defending champions, right? I believe they were.
Was it? Yeah,
Hat
because of the
believe so.
Carly Lloyd hat trick
And
against
so-
Japan was the last World Cup.
And now they hired Emma Hayes, who was the Chelsea coach, the Chelsea manager. And first thing, I was interested to see what her pay was going to be, what her salary was going to be. She's getting the same base salary as Greg Berhalter. To be honest, if you go off of a resume, she should probably be getting paid much more than him.
I will say it's one of those things because they have the equal pay structure now. It actually, in this scenario, I think to your point, is hurting her because she should be paid more based on her caliber of what she's done for the women's game compared to Berhalter.
Although I don't think it applies to the coaches' salaries. Like they could have paid her whatever they wanted.
But it just
wouldn't
happened
have
to be the exact same.
I think they wanted to match it to show how much they wanted her here. Now here's the crazy
That's
thing.
fair.
Here's the crazy thing. So when she started at Chelsea 11 years ago, they were an amateur / semi-pro. They were a part-time team, so they weren't a full-time club. Became full-time professional, put some money into it. In that time, she established a dominance where they won the league. I can't remember, but it was something where more than 50% of the time that she was there, they won the league. So more years than they weren't crowned champions. They won it. She won 15 trophies in 11 years at Chelsea. Turned them into what is now one of the best clubs in the entire world. And you know whose sister plays on that team? Reece James.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Lauren James. I believe her name's
you're right.
Lauren James. She plays on that team.
She does.
She's a baller.
Yeah, she's really good. He even said that he thinks she's technically better than a lot of male professionals in the world. Just techers. But anyway, here's the crazy thing. Chelsea wanted her to stay, obviously. Quadruple her salary.
Wow.
And it still wasn't as much as what the United States women's national team was paying her.
Wow.
So can you imagine how
Good for her.
Can you imagine getting more than a 4 times pay raise to go somewhere?
And working a lot less. Technically.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because you're
You're
working.
training way
Probably a little bit more pressure. Definitely more pressure. I'll say that because the United States women's national team is still the standard for women's
The
soccer.
expectation is
It's
win
getting,
a trophy
it's
every
getting,
game.
yeah.
Or
But
every
after the
tournament.
last World Cup, do you still expect that?
This is what I'm saying. They're at a pivotal moment now where either they fall off and they let Spain, Sweden, some of these
Japan,
Germany, some of these other
Japan,
countries pass them, or they reestablish dominance and they come back and establish themselves as the best team in the world. So that's why I think they were so focused on trying to get her to be the coach because they felt like she's the right person for the job.
In a long term, it sounds like, in terms
Yeah.
of rebuilding what we want it to be.
I've been watching a little bit of like some footage on some interviews that she's done, some like in the locker room type stuff, like meetings with players at Chelsea. And I got to say, I do think she's probably the right fit. Here's the thing that I think she probably had to have a conversation with them was how much freedom and how much backing and support she's going to get from the federation. Because as you know, there's a lot of drama that's going on with the women's national team about people say that the players are the ones that run the decisions behind what goes on.
And like who gets selected
and who gets selected and things like that. So I think she probably had to have a conversation like, if I feel like I have to bench certain players or exclude certain players, will I have support from the federation or will I be thrown under the bus? Because right now, so Rapinoe just retired. All right, so that one was a big topic because people were saying she needs to be done. She's no longer at the quality that we need in order to win the World Cup. Alex Morgan is next on the chopping block. Like Alex Morgan, a lot of people are saying she needs to go and they need to bring in some younger players. So she's going to have that conversation with Alex Morgan at some point, if that's true. Again, I don't watch it as much as I watch, the men's. But how do you think that's going to go down? A player that's been the poster child for United States women's national team, getting told by a new coach that she's going to get benched.
I mean, when is the next?
So they have the Olympics coming up next year. So that's what they're preparing for right now, the Olympics.
Well, one, obviously, if you're Alex Morgan, I would assume that you want to still be part of the United States. So, but, I mean, I would assume that you want to still be part of it, no matter what, as a player. Now, the conversation can go, it's either you completely out of the team and we just move on and that's it, or you have to accept the fact that you're going to be
a support player,
not playing as much as you're used to, and you have to accept that role and be a role model to everybody else. Otherwise, if you're going to be on the bench, you're not going to be happy, and the whole mood is going to come down. Then there's no point of trying to, work with that because you're only. It takes one bad apple, and then it just spreads. Especially like you said, that's been a theme in the United States for the women.
I just think it's going to be that's the thing where the former manager would have. I don't think he would have been able to do that without people taking Alex Morgan's side or the player side, and then the players revolting against him, and then him eventually being out. So I think he tried to play it a little safe, where he kept some players on the field a little bit longer than they probably should have been on, because he didn't want to rock the boat too much with the players.
You think that was just because of his background and his resume, where Emma Hayes comes over and has a pedigree of success in all just different types of things?
Yeah, I mean, it's like you bring in Pep. He can manage a little bit different than if you bring in somebody with a lot less experience than him.
Yeah.
Right. And again, it's one of those where do the players trust him? Do the players not trust him? I think, again, that was just probably had to be a point of conversation for her contract talks of like, if I'm going to be here, I'm going to make some tough decisions that maybe you guys don't like and the players might not like, but you guys have to back me if you really want me to be the coach.
And
I could see that conversation happening. I think when Jill Ellis was the coach and we went through women went through a rough patch and either lost in the World Cup or I think it was the Olympics, one or the other. That's when a lot of those older players like Abby Wambach and stuff, kind of to that point of like Megan Rapinoe, were pushed a little bit more to the side. And at first, a lot of people didn't like it, a lot of the players included, but it's what's needed at this point. You have to crack an egg and make an omelet.
You watched that one, what was that show with where she went on and she talked about it. You mentioned it to us at the meeting, the Hawks.
Oh, the playbook.
Yeah, so she's on the playbook and she talked about that specific situation and she said the players had a meeting with her and basically said like, we don't like what you're doing. And basically started she alluded to the fact that they started revolting against her, and she said, I had to make a decision to like stand up for myself or give in to the pressure. She's like, and I stood up for myself and we ended up winning a World Cup. And so like it worked out. But had she lost that World Cup, I mean, she would have been out.
She would have been out. Yeah. But
you
make your decisions. You believe in what you believe in.
But as a
hope the
coach,
results go your way.
You need to have the final say, right?
Yeah, but
does Berhalter though? Like,
I mean, it's like the Ten Hag and Ronaldo situation.
Yeah.
Right? Like, who's the club going to support? Mbappe at PSG. Who's the club going to support?
Mbappe.
It doesn't matter who the coach is. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Like, I don't know. It just, to me, if you're a coach, you're there for the reason and you're supposed to take care of every single person. You're supposed to treat them. I know everybody has to be treated differently, depends on personalities and a lot of the time what they bring to the table, I guess. However, you can't keep somebody on the field if they're not performing. Like, that's not right. Or you can't keep somebody on the team just to prolong their career, even though it's not right for the overall well-being of the team. It just doesn't, like...
Yeah, and
that's not the right thing to do as a coach.
Of course.
Yeah, you're not...
Of course, however, when there's so much pressure from the players who have been kind of in charge. I mean, that's what people will say, is that the players have been in charge for a long time now. It's probably quite difficult to do it, especially in a program, and the most difficult program to manage in women's soccer in the world.
Yeah. I mean, I hope it works out. I hope that she does have the final.
So she comes to the coaches convention every year here in the United States. So I've watched a couple of her sessions. I can't remember. It's been a long time, so I can't remember. But I'm sure they were pretty good. But again, I said I've seen some interviews where the way she talks to the players and the way she talks about how she manages and stuff, it seems pretty good. There's one, excuse me. There's one video of her talking to the players at Chelsea and basically just telling them that they were shit. She's like, "You guys have played like shit. This is not good enough. The standards need to be higher." And again, in managing women versus managing men is slightly different. Not that one's better or worse, but the way that you approach personalities is different, because there's certain things that you could say to guys that you probably can't say to women, and vice versa as well. So just the fact that she's got that much confidence in her coaching abilities, coming into a team with so much pressure and so many personalities, I hope she does a good job.
Yeah.
But you never know.
I mean, okay, player-wise, you want honesty. You want somebody to be straight up with you, and you don't want lies. If somebody lies to your face and says, "Oh, I think you're a huge part of the team," and then goes on, and then you don't play as much, or then they throw you under the bus, then that's not fair either. So if a coach comes in and says, "Look, this is where I think you fit, and this is what I expect," and then if you're not willing to match that, then that's fine, but you won't be part of the team. Yeah, that's just the way it is. As a player, you don't want to be lied to. That's the number one thing. So I think regardless of how shitty it might sound at the time for you as a player, that you hear that, you rather hear the truth than be lied to and fed all these lies and then end up like thrown under the bus and all that. So I think just the way you approach it as a coach is the most important thing, because you have to have tough conversations. If you don't, then I mean, I don't think it's just kind of a...
She's got a lot of support from ex-players and from people around the world. A lot of people have said that they believe she's the right person for the job. So I hope she does well.
Yeah, I mean...
moving on.
We'll see in a few weeks or a few months, whenever some
we'll see
We'll
see at the Olympics next year.
That's true.
That's going to be her first big test.
Big test, yeah.
I mean, I'm sure they have friendlies very soon, and the rosters and all that will be...
That to me is going to be the most interesting thing. Like, what will the roster selection be? Because to your point, will Alex Morgan start, or will she start Sophie Smith up top, or Rodman? Like, and it would be interesting to see some of those young players get more of a run. But we'll see.
If you're Alex Morgan, and your approach, let's just say for the sake of this talk, that she doesn't think Alex Morgan is to the level to be starting every single game, and she says, "I would love for you to be part of the team, but you won't play as much." What would your response be?
I don't know. It depends. Some players take it better than others. And as much as you'd like to say players want honesty, I think players deserve honesty. I don't think all players want honesty.
I think people say they want honesty, but then when you're confronted with the truth of, hey, this thing I've worked at for 30 plus years, my whole life I've poured into this, I've sacrificed time with friends, family, everybody, and you're now telling me that this is over, I think in that moment, people's emotions will get the best of them, either not by necessarily like yelling or screaming, but feeling some type of way about it and not being the same after that conversation. Because if you think about it, it is a life-altering event for them. Because
you know that
you guys know this, your career is changing, and you have to do something different than what you've used to doing your whole life.
Everyone's a little bit different, but do you know that as far as I know, or from what I've read online, that the Portugal coach, the former Portugal coach, no longer talks to Ronaldo?
Who they won the Euros?
Yep.
They won't talk at all?
Because he benched them during a few games or whatever. He benched them, and Ronaldo didn't take it, right? So, again, he had to go in front of Ronaldo and say, look, you might have been the best player in our history, but at this moment, I feel like we need to give time to younger players, to the next generation. And Ronaldo was like, okay. And they don't talk anymore.
Ronaldo seems to do that with some people.
So I'm bringing up the point is that, as much as you say some players want honesty, like your point, not all players really want honesty, or not all players are really willing to take it the right way.
But the other thing, do we know that he's had conversation with Ronaldo saying you're gonna be on the bench more?
No, you would assume you would assume he's had to. He's probably. I don't think he as his captain. I don't think he just benched him. Like you can't just bench someone like that without having a conversation if they're the captain.
Like
of the team.
Roberto Martinez, he publicly has stated, "I would love Ronaldo to be part of the team, but he's not gonna play. He's not what he used to be, like age-wise. He's not gonna be starting every game. Whether he wants to play and be part of the team, great. If he wants to start every game, this is not going to be the place for him." And it seems like Ronaldo's scoring, playing, whatever. So I don't know. I mean, obviously, I don't know what in that situation, what if there was talks or whatever.
Right.
But
you would assume there would be.
Yeah, I would hope. It's just, even though, to your point, even though at that moment it might be the worst thing in the world to hear, I still think you want to hear the truth and then get it over with, and then
I'm not saying
down the line,
I think the right thing to do is tell the truth, and knowing as a leader or a coach, like knowing it's going to devastate them. So delivering in a way that matters and that won't be as devastating as possible, but it's still going to hurt. And to me, I think after the fact is really what really matters, is circling back with them after and then explaining, like, hey, if you aren't going to be this, why do I want you on the team, and explaining all the other positives. Because if you think about someone like a Ronaldo, his work ethic, his discipline, his diet, everything else he brings, his professionalism, his experience, all the things he's seen, and he has it in him. I think back to the Euro final when they won, and he had to be subbed off injured. He could have gone down the tunnel and done that, but stood on the sideline, cheered, was coaching, running around, grabbing balls, being a great teammate.
But that was because he got injured, right?
True.
That's because he came off injured, not because would it have been the same story
if he got subbed? Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's a little different, right?
It is different. It's just, I don't know. It proves, I think, to me that he has it in him,
right?
That he can be a fan while not playing. Because I don't know, switching over to coaching for me, that's really hard. Being on the sidelines and not being out there and having no impact to it.
Let me ask you this: we've all played. If you get subbed off, have you ever had a moment where you didn't agree with the decision and you go on the bench and you're pissed off?
Yeah, of course. Everyone has.
I have substituted?
Yeah.
Yeah, because
yeah. There's a few times in college I distinctly remember when we were chasing a game and I got substituted and I was very angry, yes.
I mean, but not every time, right? There's some situations where you understand why you got substituted
or
whatever.
Well,
you're not playing.
Things aren't going your way.
But at some point, I'm sure you've disagreed when you got sub because everyone wants to play.
No, not about just disagree. Like I'm talking about.
Have we ever thrown a fit and walked off the field and yelled at the coach and the owner?
I don't know, but not.
Ooh, story time.
Not walking off. I want to say walking off.
Story time.
But go like, let's say you walk off, you shake hands, and then you're pissed off on the bench, and you throw a water bottle, or you're like. Yeah, fuck this shit.
I've been pissed. I've kicked it back. I've never thrown a wall. I've been pissed and kicked it back. I think.
College story. So I was a captain. This was my junior year. I was a captain on the team, right? And so we're playing in a game. It's a tough game, conference game. Anyway, I start making a run down the wing, right? My teammate who's standing there is asking for the ball. I don't give him the ball initially for whatever reason. Maybe I was trying to dribble a little bit more. I was trying to create space, whatever. But now I'm dribbling towards him. So now, as I'm dribbling towards him, if I haven't given him the ball and we're getting closer together, what does he need to do?
Clear the space.
Clear the space and go somewhere else. So he stands there yelling at me for the ball. So then I start yelling at him to get out of my way. So anyway, I mean, eventually, I don't know, I probably lost the ball or whatever happened, right? So we started arguing. And I'm like, you should have gotten out of the way. Like, I get it. I didn't play you. I'm sorry I didn't play you, but you should have gotten out of the way. Don't just stand there after I haven't given you the ball. And he was like, well, you should have passed me the ball first, and I would have never had to get out of the way, right? My coach sides with him. So he subs me off because he saw the interaction, and he subs me off. And that's when I got really pissed off because I'm like, I felt like you're siding with him where it was kind of a 50-50. Like, were we both at fault? Absolutely, we were both at fault. However, I was on the bench and he was still playing.
Right, where it's like shows the whole team, hey, Javi was wrong and this other person
we
was
were
right.
down 1-0 in that game. Down 1-0. So I'm on the bench and I'm fuming. I take the captain armband, boom, throw it on the ground. And my coach saw it because he brought it up. He brought it up after the game. He brought it up. He's like, Javi threw the captain armband or whatever. I was pissed. And it was also, it didn't help that the coach was kind of also like telling me like, you should have passed him the ball, blah, 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 which he was totally right. I should have passed him the ball originally. So I guess in that perspective, had I not made the initial mistake, we would have never been in this situation. I was like trying to say that the mistake had happened regardless. So there's other things that should have happened after the mistake in order for us to prevent a bigger mistake, if that makes sense. Anyway, 5 minutes later, my teammate, the one that I didn't pass the ball to, scores the game tying goal.
Did you celebrate?
No, of course I didn't celebrate. I was pissed.
For real?
Yeah, of course.
As a captain.
Of course I was
you
pissed.
two, I see why you guys
Of
are great
course.
friends. This captain
So
throws
anyway.
his arm back, curses at the coach.
Yo.
This captain does
I've never
his cheer
done
when
that.
his
But listen,
team
listen.
I do it
scores
at
a
practice,
goal.
okay? I do it behind the scenes.
Wait, so question for you, because I have a similar story actually. So I'm glad that you're saying this.
Oh, so you after you bash it on-
No. It's similar. I didn't say.
I
the
hurry up
same.
because I'm not finished with the story yet.
All right, go ahead.
You want me to finish? You want me to finish?
Yeah.
All right.
Then I'll ask my question. Go ahead.
So anyway, I'm pissed, and the coach comes up to me, and he like gets in my face, but he's like obviously upset still too, and he's like, "That's why I kept him on the field, like because he scores goals, because he was a striker and I was a winger, and like yeah, but he was like because he scores goals, that pisses me off even more, right?
Oh, hell yeah.
And I'm fuming, and 10 minutes go by or whatever, and I'm thinking like I'm done, like I'm not playing anymore, like this is like. I threw the captain armband was somewhere on the bench. I'm sure somebody picked it up or whatever, but it was on the bench. I was already done, and I think the coach used it as an opportunity to like kind of motivate me because he was like, okay, maybe he's pissed, so maybe he'll like channel that energy or whatever. And surprisingly enough, he subbed me back in. Subs me back in. 5 minutes later, scored the game winner.
So that's.
Damn.
And I went up to him. No, I didn't go up to him.
So my question to you was going to be: do you think he did it
Yeah,
to motivate you?
yeah. So
That's funny.
So in my head, I'm like, I was still a little bit pissed of the whole situation. So I scored the game winner off of a header, which I never scored headers because I was the shortest guy on the field. But I scored the game winner, and in my head, I was like, I just proved to you or whatever, right? Which I shouldn't have looked at it that way. I should have looked at it as like, at the end, we got the 3 points. It worked. Whatever he did, it worked. And so from that moment going forward, my coach was a little bit more, how would I say it? I think he thought that like pushing my buttons like that would motivate me a little bit more to perform after that, which was not a good thing ultimately because I realized that was like a one-time situation that happened. And I don't know if I scored the goal because I was pissed or I was just in the right spot and I scored the goal. But after that, he was like, he would get on me a little bit more than some of the other players because he thought that was going to push me to perform
He
a
was
little bit
going
better.
back to that well, trying to find water.
And for me, it was like I was just like I can't do this. I can't be.
So he kept telling you your shit every single day, trying to
Pretty much.
Your shit.
And
your
not.
shit.
He wasn't. It wasn't that extreme, but yes, he
Yeah.
was getting on me a little bit more than some of the other players. I felt like, but those are times that you look back and you're like, I was probably wrong to act the way I did, especially me being a captain. That's one time where I should have like swallowed my pride, and when my teammate scored the goal, I should have celebrated.
Yeah.
Right. Ultimately, it worked out. But yeah, you're right. That's one of the moments that I was like, that's probably not a good moment for me.
That's funny. It's a good story.
Another story.
That-
We love stories out here.
Dude, like I said, the question I was going to ask you is that, because the story I have it was college. I think it was my junior, it might have been my senior year, and we were losing 1-0, and there was like 15 minutes left in the game. I didn't get in an argument with my players on the team, like my teammates on the field like you did, but my coach subbed me off. We were chasing the game, and that was the game where I walk over to my bag, I kick it, I'm pissed, I'm at the end of the bench, I refuse to sit down, kind of just standing there pacing, waiting, expecting to get back in. 2 minutes goes by, nothing. 3 minutes goes by, nothing. 4 minutes goes by, 5 minutes goes by. I'm like, dude, we've got 5 minutes left in this game. We're down by a goal. It's the playoffs. Our striker goes up. Their goalie comes out. We play a ball into the box. Their goalie comes out. Our striker comes up and punches the ball, hand of God style, as the goalie's trying to catch it. Our photographer gets the perfect still photo of it. Their whole bench, every player starts losing their minds. It drops to one player on our team who never scores. Misses sitters, Darwin style, our entire college career. Taps it in. Tie the game. Unlike Javi, I do cheer on the sidelines. Get crazy excited. Instantly, my coach stands up, looks at me, points at me, and subs me back into the game. With about 2 minutes left, ball comes into the box.
You scored an own goal.
Yeah. Scored a header, very similar to you, actually. It's weird when you were telling the story, I'm like, this is freaky.
Yeah.
Scored a header, A lot of the alumni that I'm great friends with, we're all standing there, run over to them. We all start celebrating, going wild. We win the game. And after the game, when we were on the bus driving home, I really started thinking through, like, I know for a fact that my coach subbed me out just to piss me off, to try and rechannel me, give me a little bit of rest and get back out there. That when you were saying that story, I was like, holy, this is the exact same situation. But it sounds like it didn't play out well after the fact for you because you just kept trying to push your buttons. Because to your point, you can only do those small things in like small, very important occasions, because otherwise it just becomes you're manipulating your plays and you're not being honest and transparent. I think that's kind of what you're talking about with you just want to know like what the coach's intentions for you are before you show up to training or before you show up to a game. You don't want to be lied to, manipulated, and it's like, hold this over your head or that over your head, because that doesn't help anybody long term.
I think you just want to know where you stand ultimately, especially in the eyes of a new coach coming in. Yeah. You want to know where you stand, because having a coach for so long or having a coach for, a certain amount of time, eventually they put you in a box because they've coached you for so long. So now you are the player that they believe you are. So when a new coach comes in, that's the good thing about some of the players who are maybe haven't gotten as much playing time or whatever, is that they get a fresh slate. Mm-hmm. And oftentimes you'll see that with when new coaches come in, players who haven't played are now playing more minutes because they don't have them in a box yet, right? So I think that's the benefit of a new coach as well, is for it could even be the fact that Alex Morgan maybe does get more playing time because she sees the value of Alex Morgan, whereas some of the other people who are already starting to lose value or lose confidence in her. Yeah. So maybe that is the benefit of that. But yeah, you got to know where you stand. And oftentimes you realize, I coach now and Joe's coaching now as well, but you realize sometimes how far off your perception of a player is versus their perception of the player that they are as well. Yeah. There's some players that think that they're so good, and in your head, you're like, this person is terrible. And vice versa. There's some players who don't have any confidence, and you're like, you're a really valuable player for us. So that is one of the things that she's going to have to navigate at the national team, is those conversations. But I do really hope that she has support from the federation to say, we truly believe in you, and that's why we're giving you this much money and this position.
That was gonna be my point. I think if you're gonna pay somebody that much money, you better be behind them in terms of letting them do their thing, because she's clearly proven what she can do. She has the pedigree to do it. She's done it over a long period of time at a very high level, and they're paying her. Hopefully the actions speak the same way that the money does over time, but we'll see.
So let's move on to a different subject. This is fortunately for the last two podcasts, VAR has not been the main topic of discussion through our podcast, for the last two at least.
If USA would have tied today, Joe would have.
Oh my god!
There was some VAR stuff going on.
Debauchery.
Yeah. So, but the point I was trying to make is that now, this is not directly related to VAR, but they do have that technology that they had in the World Cup. They're going to have it for the Euros next year, where the ball has all of those sensors, or that sensor, so they can do the 3D, what do they call it, semi-automated offsides? Yeah. So they're going to have that, which I think they probably should have already had in the Premier League.
100%.
Yeah.
No human error possible. Yeah. Right?
Is it?
No Luis Diaz situation.
Is it?
Yeah, because
it's automatic.
Because automatic and it pops up. It's
semi-automatic.
Fast.
So that's why they don't say automatic. They say semi-automatic.
But I don't think anybody has to draw lines or any.
Yeah, semi-automatic. I think someone has to push the button to turn it on. It's kind of like a computer. Yeah, it's
so technically
once you push the power button, it turns itself on.
To turn it on. Right. So
so that'll happen once or twice.
But when you see it when I saw it in the World Cup, I was confused as to why they didn't have that everywhere. And I was like, first of all, how are you getting these 3D images of the players? Because it wasn't showing a still image; it was showing a 3D of literally they put like a silhouette, like a wall, and how much they were breaking through the wall. So I definitely think I'm all for technology as long as it doesn't interrupt the flow of the game. And it looks like that probably won't interrupt the flow of the game, because that's again one of those. They check it in the VAR room. It's pretty clear cut. It's not. Because, again, one of the issues with VAR right now is that when they draw the lines, they don't always have the perfect camera angle. And when they don't have the perfect camera angle, you can't really tell. Because if a player is leaning forward from a certain camera angle, that looks different than if you're looking at it straight on, right? So I definitely think that's something that they should probably incorporate into all of the major leagues and major tournaments. But they have it for the Euros, so you guys Georgie specifically will be will be
I'm
happy
all
for that.
I mean,
it doesn't matter because
World Cup.
Liverpool's not playing in the Euros, right? So
Exactly.
George doesn't really care.
So it's all good there. But I mean, they had the World Cup, right?
Yep.
And it worked. It was perfect.
worked great.
I don't think there was any problems at all in the World Cup.
No. The thing I like about it too is faster than drawing the lines.
Yeah.
Because drawing the lines takes a while.
Yep.
Especially like I think at the Newcastle goal when they couldn't find the ball and how long that took. So it'll speed the game up, which will be nice.
All right, the next topic. Joe's got some conspiracy theories on the Premier League fixtures in relation to the United States.
Yes.
Oh,
Joe, just say it so we can cut this into a clip and see how many views we get.
Because it starts with Georgie's conspiracy theory that Liverpool always gets screwed. Okay, Georgie's facts
it's
that
not a
happened to
conspiracy theory. It's a fact. It's 14 times now. Since
his well-positioned group of facts that prove his argument.
So hold on. So just for the people who haven't listened to our podcast, really quickly, what that fact is.
What's your conspiracy theory again with Liverpool?
Ever since Jurgen Klopp took over Liverpool, after the international breaks, they switched their games to 7:30 in the morning, so the earliest possible game at the weekend when all the players are still coming back from international break.
So you're saying Liverpool players have a shorter amount of recovery time before they come back for their Premier League fixture after international break. What was do you remember how
14,
many times?
So since Jurgen Klopp took over, it's happened 14 times. 3 out of 3 this season so far. 14 overall. The next team was Chelsea with 6.
Okay, so Liverpool has had to play on the earliest fixture 14 times versus the next closest team, which was 6. So that's the Georgie's conspiracy theory against Liverpool.
That's Georgie's theory. And then coincidentally, it got happen again, to your point.
Yeah.
So this weekend, or not this upcoming weekend, but the following, when the EPL's back, City, Liverpool, at Anfield, I believe.
Nope.
Is it at the Etihad? At the Etihad, 7:30 in the morning. My conspiracy theory is it's due to money and television rights, because a lot of those games aren't broadcast in Europe and the big television rights are here. And it's the day after Black Friday, which across America is normally rivalry week for college football, which starts early, that they wanted to increase the amount of viewers they could potentially have. Biggest game of the weekend, arguably one of the biggest games of the season, is first versus second. So they wanted to have the most amount of worldwide viewers watch it. Yeah, that's why I absolutely think there's some truth to that.
So Joe is saying
that the American viewership changed the game schedule.
All right, hold on.
Okay,
The money.
Let me give you this argument. In Cali, it's going to be 4:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
People are not going to wake up.
That's not true. People in California absolutely wake up at 4:30 in the morning for these games. I promise you. I have a friend who lives in San Diego.
Yeah,
he goes to bars and watches games at 4 in the morning.
I want to say this before you move on to your point. I want to clarify that what Joe was saying is that the Premier League, the English Premier League, is basing their game times around
television
the
rights.
average, no, not just television rights, but around the average American football fans viewership time.
That is.
So they're okay. So that I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, hey.
Yes.
And I'm talking about American football, not
correct.
Football. So because they don't want the games to clash with NFL games.
Hey,
so
money talks, man.
Interesting.
Money talks.
So why couldn't they do it on Sunday at 9 in the morning?
What happens on Sunday?
I'm saying, like, they could have moved the game to Sunday. If
I know what the same sport is played in America on Sundays, except for on a bigger scale.
Yeah, so you're saying it doesn't matter if it's Saturday or Sunday, it's still the same thing, still the same issue.
No, it's not.
That's what he's saying.
The NFL starts at what time? 1 p.m.
Not necessarily. If they play in Europe, they start at 9 a.m.
There's no more Euro games.
I don't know. Okay.
So 1 p.m. is the earliest possible.
So you're saying why didn't they push it to Sunday?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Because usually game of
well,
the week
to your point, because you mentioned that they only watch one game over the weekend in England.
Saturdays.
So they only watch one game and it's on Saturday and it's the early game. Or they only pick one game and they broadcast on Saturday. Yeah. So if they push it to Sunday, they would lose all their England viewers.
The reason why they do that
television.
in England, by the way, is so they force people to go to games.
Force people to go to games and to go to pubs because I think pubs can show the games.
Yeah.
So which makes sense. Yeah. But again, from a television standpoint, if you are the Premier League and you can pick the schedule, why would you pick a schedule that would make you less money? When in reality, all you're moving around is the travel time for the players, which unfortunately the Premier League has really shown they don't care that much about the players. I get that. But what you guys are saying it like this makes no sense. That's how we arrived at this conclusion.
I get that. When you're looking at it in terms of worldwide.
You're saying that the football to football piece.
Yeah, because I'm saying that there's other countries besides the United States that are
watch
also watching the Premier
lot
League
more
a lot
than-
more. But you're not saying that it's for the worldview. You're saying it's because because the United States has a bigger influence on the viewership, so they're trying to cater to the United States.
I would assume. I would assume. I don't know if this is true. I would assume the Premier League's biggest TV contract is with American cable companies or American broadcasting. Because where else would it be?
Can we? Is this a valid reason to kick Joe off the podcast? This take right here.
I'm thinking of what actually is the reason, because nobody ever talks about it, right? Or maybe they do. I don't know.
Georgie, I'm
There's
telling
people-
you,
there's
when
people
the
in
reason
suits who make these decisions.
when things don't logically add up, the answer normally is money and capitalism,
And American football.
which ties in with money and capitalism.
All right, so that's Joe's conspiracy theory. Let us know in the
I
comments.
know a lot of you will agree in the comments.
This is gonna be a clip.
Joe's gonna tell his
Yeah.
coworkers, you have to agree.
By the way, that's unfair. Joe has influence over a lot of people, friends, family, coworkers. So half of the comments that we get in our videos are Joe's influence over his people, which I don't think is fair. I'm gonna influence. I'm gonna influence somebody.
I just ask people, will you comment? And they're like, you know what? Let's do it.
Let's do
See,
it.
unlike you, Javi, I try to treat people nicely. I treat them with respect.
You don't throw the captain armband.
I don't
on the
throw
ground.
the captain armband on the ground after I score a winning goal. Yell at
do
my
wanna say
coach
this.
and tell him, I told you so. Why'd you bench
listen.
me, you loser?
I do want to say this. If my college coach is watching this, I really do appreciate what he did for me, because he did. I don't want to paint him in the wrong light. I think he was. I mean, like any person, he was a little rough around the edges for certain things, but he was a good human being who actually cared about like the players and the development and stuff. So
You gonna say his name and shout him out or what?
Rich, my boy Rich Markham.
Rich?
So listen, Rich gave me the opportunity to play in college. He did his best to develop me. I think I should have probably taken a lot more responsibility in my own development, because I didn't. And that's probably one of the reasons why I retired early, because I didn't truly think of myself as like the person who was in full control of my development, if that makes sense. So,
you surrendered it almost to the trainers and the coaches, opposed to taking it on and doing it yourself.
Yeah, and so while I still feel like his approach, once he realized, and that was only the last year really of my playing career or my college career, I think he realized that what he was trying to do was get the best out of me. Mm-hmm. I think personally, I felt like that wasn't the right way to go about it. Mm-hmm. And so I probably took it the wrong way of saying like, this is like BS, I don't want to play anymore. And I fought him on it a little bit, when all he was trying to do was push me to be the best player. And I'll be honest, probably one of my biggest weaknesses was that I was very inconsistent. I had some very good games and I had some very bad games. Mm-hmm. And I think for him, or for any coach in general, he was probably thinking, if Javi can perform at that level, why can't he do it every game?
Yeah.
So I think he was
his job to get you there every game.
So I think he was trying to find those ways to do that, and I was probably just like, yeah.
Where's the FIFA card of defending? I just want to know
the FIFA card is over here.
What's the defending on there? Is it 0?
It's 0. I'll put the FIFA card as a screenshot on the video. But yeah, so I did want to give him a shout out, because I think that was important to let him know. I do thank him for all.
Do you think that's one of the hardest parts of being a manager? Because obviously you have to understand the tactics, you have to know the technical things, but if you can't get the players to buy into what you want to do,
is one of the most
that even if he would have been a worse overall coach, if he could have gotten you to buy into working harder and doing more work, your team or you would have been better for it.
Yeah, I think.
Do you think that's the hardest
I've been
thing?
coaching for a while now, and obviously I don't have as much experience as a lot of other people out there. But what I can tell you is that you do have to have both. At the higher levels, you have to have both. Mm-hmm. You can't be an amazing man manager and have very little tactical knowledge, because ultimately that's how you're going to win games.
Right.
There's you might keep players happy for a little bit with your man management, but if you don't know how to win games, players, that's more important for them. So ultimately,
they'll lose them anyways.
You'll lose them anyway.
Games, yeah.
But I think it's almost, I wouldn't even say it's 50-50. I would agree that you could probably have a little bit less tactical knowledge and expertise and have more man management, and you'll be a better coach than the other way around. So I do think, I think the man management part of it is very important, because it's not necessarily about keeping your players happy. It's more about proving to them that you know that you have their best interest in mind when you're managing them.
Which then keeps them engaged because then they'll deliver at practice or listen to what you're trying to.
Like we just talked about stories in which we felt like upset. We got pissed off with the decisions that our coaches made, but ultimately we realized that this was something that they were doing in order to get the best out of us, right? So sometimes we might not agree with those decisions at the moment, but that's part of being a good man manager. You're not always going to keep the player happy, but in the long run, you're going to prove to the player that you were doing your best to get the best out of them, if that makes sense. So I think the man management is, it's key for sure. But you do have to have both.
I was always happy, you know.
Georgie was low maintenance.
Georgie's come with jokes today, and I like it.
Georgie was low maintenance. All right, moving on from that. All right, so let's finish up this podcast with a couple of things. First of all, I got a trick question for you.
Dun, dun, dun,
And then after that, we'll do some quick rapid fire questions for both of you. All right, just a couple of questions. But the first part, trick question.
Trick question.
Let me see if you guys are smart enough, have the IQ levels to figure this out. All right.
Is it like a random, just like trick question, or does it have anything to do with?
This actually happened.
Okay.
All right. How can you score a goal from 2 consecutive attacking set pieces? Sorry, how can you score 2 goals from 2 consecutive attacking set pieces?
So you're saying this one team has scored 2 goals in 2 like back-to-back plays, both were somehow attacking set pieces.
Correct.
You
just told us earlier, didn't you?
No, because that was against
that
was you can't score on yourself.
Yeah,
from a set piece.
That was a different one.
So that would have been a different.
So
technically, you score, and then the other team gets a corner kick, and they score. That's 2 goals.
No.
Because it's not
you
2
get
attacking set pieces.
You get the ball twice in a row without the other team touching the ball.
You score.
So you score a goal.
And then something happens after you score, like a fight or something of that nature, causing a foul and a red card?
Nope.
No, because then it would still go to kick. I have no idea.
No, because what happens after you score a goal?
Kickoff.
Right.
So you just shoot from kickoff.
But you can't, but no,
the other team gets the ball.
Yeah, the other team gets the ball. So how can you score 2 goals from 2 consecutive attacking set pieces?
You can't.
If you guys are watching this, by the way, pause the video real quick. Comment what your thoughts are, because I want to see if anybody can get it. And you know who told me this? Doug. Doug told me
Blanfeld?
this. Yeah. He told me this, and it happened. I believe it happened with his girls. That's why he told me, and I was very confused. And he told me, he's like, I think you'd get it, and I didn't get it. So I kind of felt a little dumb because he was expecting me to get it.
And then
he's like, you're smart. He's like, you're a smart guy. You could get this. And I was like,
2 attacking set pieces. Did both goals count?
Correct.
Has to be something after you score off a set piece. Something happens, so you get the ball back right away. What that something is, I have no idea.
I guess would this technically be it if they did something?
Sorry, let me clarify, because I don't want to. I want to make sure we're not confused here. It wasn't like direct. I don't think it wasn't like direct, but it was from 2 consecutive set pieces.
Like the ball was never fully in play.
But the ball was not touched by the other team between.
Not touched by the other team or not in play?
Correct. The ball was not touched by the other team between the 2 goals that occurred.
The only thing I was going to say is if the other team somehow
and it's
on the kickoff either had
it's an easy solution,
time wasting,
but then you're going to be like
switch, and then you scored off the kickoff.
So close. It's like a solution that you don't think of until I tell you, and then you're like, okay.
You score. The other team's protesting against the ref. The ref calls.
It's not like a complicated one,
huh?
Wait.
You score at the end of a half. They call half, and then you score right immediately after kickoff.
Yep. Hey.
But did you know that's a rule? If you score a goal, and all the players.
Yeah, Georgie, that's not what we're talking about.
I know. But it could have made sense.
Georgie likes making up
because the other team still gets the ball.
Yeah.
Now, if you're like fighting or whatever, maybe there's a rule.
Yeah. If you were fighting and then the ref said, "Hey," like you like blew the whistle because you took too long to take the free kick and switch possession, that could be another way it could happen. But they scored.
No, but it's because it would have still been off of a kickoff, and they wouldn't do it for time wasting on a kickoff.
Hey, technically you could.
So the correct answer was that they scored on the last like a free kick right before the half ended. They blew the whistle right after, and then they got the kickoff in the next one, and they scored off of the kickoff.
Makes sense. Got it.
All right, so well done, Joe. It took him.
Interesting.
I mean, we
Are
had
you
to, we had to
smarter-
edit this podcast. It was 3 hours in between our recording time, and then Joe finally got it. All right, so but that's
There's some weird rules.
There's some weird rules. We'll get into those. I want to every single podcast episode. I want to bring a new interesting rule. One to see if I can like a trick one, see if I can stump you, or two just a fun fact or whatever about the rules because there's some interesting.
Should we ask the fans about what we saw in the USA Trinidad game?
Which one?
Can you be offside on a goal kick? Throw it in the comments.
That one's an easy Google. But yes, I had to Google it. I think we all had to Google it just to make sure.
Which you can't. You cannot be offsides.
so I don't
and
know
the
why.
the linesman called it twice in the USA game. It was against Trinidad, so I didn't
Interesting.
care too much. But
Interesting.
Trust me, bro.
Trust me, bro. Sources. All right.
No, that actually happened.
All right. So let's finish this podcast off with some quick fire questions.
Dun,
all
dun,
right.
dun, dun, dun.
So here's the rules. I mean, there's not really rules, but it's not just one word answers. So like answer it and then quick little explanation of why. Doesn't have
Okay.
to be long. Just a quick little explanation so we can move on to the next one. 3 questions each. 3 for
You're
Joe.
gonna do
3 for
sound
Georgie.
effects based on how we answer.
I'll put the sound effects in post maybe.
Okay.
I don't want to mess. I don't want
Post-production?
to. I don't want to. I'm going to press a button here and
Turn
then
it off.
the whole recording
Or
is
you
going
might
to be
actually
deleted.
just start the recording. You have been recording this whole time.
All right. So, Georgie, are you ready?
All right.
Because there's one that's.
Do we get different
that's a good one.
questions?
Yeah, you get different questions.
right. I was about
All
to say,
three of you
that
get
was
different
the
questions.
same.
Oh no, yeah.
All right. Quick fire questions for Georgie. Here we go. Is Tottenham better with or without Harry Kane?
Without. Am I? Oh, now I speak why?
You just quick little
Just
explanation.
because it fits better with like Andrew style and everybody's more of a team. Boom. I don't know.
Okay,
It's more
fair
of a
enough.
team.
Does Arteta overreact on the sidelines?
Yes.
Unbelievable.
Hater.
It's embarrassing.
Klopp, yeah, right. Klopp I think he's assaulted
the most-
people on the
I was
sideline.
waiting for that. That was a baited. That was a
I
loaded
never-
question.
What did I say about Klopp? I didn't.
What I'm saying is that Klopp overreacts on the
Yeah.
sideline, and you're telling me that Arteta overreacts on the sideline?
Why can both overreact?
Because I know you. If I told you, if the question was, does Klopp overreact on the sideline,
They
you would say
all
no. You would
overreact.
say no.
No, they all.
You should
overreact.
have asked us
This-
Klopp overreact
fair
on the
enough.
sidelines first.
This is quick fire question, so I'm not gonna
Sorry.
get into the argument with you. All right? This quick fire
started-
question. I'm just saying. All right,
Start an
you're
argument
right.
he doesn't want to finish.
I did get crap on it for last time. So
Yeah, you
somebody put in the comments like, Javi started the argument, and then at the end he was like, I'm not gonna get into this argument with you.
Thank you
all
for
right.
keeping us honest.
Last one. That's a good one. When all is said and done, who will have been the better player, Darwin Nunez or Fernando Torres?
Oh, that's a tough one. It's
No. It's not.
No. Wait.
Liverpool,
Rapid
for
fire.
Liverpool.
No.
For
That's not
Liverpool.
fair. One is already done with his career. The other one is just starting.
Right. But I'm saying at the end of both of their careers, who will you say was the better player?
Okay, I'm gonna say Darwin Nunes.
Oof.
So he's going to win a World Cup.
So you're
No,
saying
that
that
doesn't
And a
define-
Champions League?
No.
at the end, Georgie's basically saying that at the end of it all, the better player is going to be Darwin Nunez than Fernando Torres.
You told me on this podcast Torres wasn't a good player. I will. You know
Play
what?
the tape.
I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna.
This guy puts words
Georgie,
in my mouth.
we know
I
you
never
will.
said
We know
Torres.
you will.
Oh, I
go back.
will.
We
I
know
never
you'll
said
get the
Torres was
receipts.
not a good player. I probably said he was like overrated or something like that. I never said he was not a good player.
Oh, so you agree then? Darwin
and I think I probably said Torres had like one good season or something,
Yes.
which was at
Liverpool.
Liverpool. All right,
That was an amazing season he had, though.
but
all
one
right.
good season.
Okay,
At 20.
so those are the quick fire questions for Georgie.
That's light work.
I would say 2 out of 10, probably if we're giving you a score. Joe, here we
Yes,
go.
sir.
Are you ready?
No.
All right. Sorry, yours are not as interesting, Joe. My bad.
It's all right.
Who has a better chance of winning the league, Arsenal or Liverpool? Unbiased opinion.
Arsenal.
Any explanation there, Joe?
Yeah. Arteta. And
Because he's overreacting on the sidelines.
yeah, because he's the only one overreacting on the sidelines. No, and I think they're going to make some moves in January. I think Timber might come back before the end of the year, which I think will be huge. And if
Fair
you look
enough.
at what they've done against some of the bigger teams, they can get points off of them, which we've struggled with in the past. So
Fair enough.
yeah,
Does Chelsea finish top 6?
yes, I think that with Nkunku coming back, with where they're headed, if the trend continues, I think that they could make a run at top 4. I think they'll fall short, but yeah, for sure, I think they'll finish top 6. Sadly.
Last one. Who finishes second in the Golden Boot race? Because we
Second?
already all know who's going to finish first.
You don't know that.
Oh my God! Here we go, Jordy.
I think Saka. No.
Oh, Georgie, you got a reaction.
Yeah,
out
he
of
got a
Georgie
reaction
on
out of Georgia on that one, didn't I? Second.
I don't even know who's third right now.
that. Without looking. Quick fire questions.
I would say Son, but Madison's hurt. Alvarez.
That's an interesting one because you're saying then, well, sorry, you're not saying. I'm putting the words into your mouth a little bit by asking a loaded question by saying who's going to finish second, assuming that Erling Haaland finishes first.
Mm-hmm.
So you're telling me 2 Manchester City strikers are going to be the top 2.
Yeah, I think there's a chance for it. I think that as Champions League picks up, if City can start creating separation or against some of the lower teams, I think that Haaland might start. They might rest him and continue to play Alvarez, especially if the longer De Bruyne sits. Because if you lose Haaland and De Bruyne, I think their season goes up in smoke, and I could see Pep putting Alvarez in there because I think he did that a few times towards the tail end of last year, and it worked. And he can find goals.
Wonder. So with that, I wonder if there has ever been a time in Premier League history where 2 players from the same club have finished 1 and 2 in the Golden Boot.
Suarez, Sturridge probably would be the only time I
don't
could think
know.
of.
I don't think so. I don't think Sturridge finished second.
He scored a lot.
We will
of
do our
goals.
research and we'll bring it back in the next podcast. If you guys are watching this, obviously comment if you know the answers.
Possibly Ronaldo era and Man United.
What, Ronaldo and Rooney or something?
Ronaldo, Rooney, Ronaldo, Tevez, Ronaldo.
I could see Rooney and Tevez.
I think
more than
I
Ronaldo.
could see someone being like third and first or first and third.
Yeah.
Henri Bergkamp.
Could be. That one might be the one of the closest. We'll look it up.
Because I think Henri, between one of the two of them, had an insane amount of assists, and I think Henri was either 1 or 2 in goals and 1 in assists, and I think most of his assists obviously would have been to Bergkamp.
We'll look it up. Put it on the next podcast.
Dun, 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 dun.
All right. All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us on this podcast. We're going to try and do these once a week at least. If we can, twice a week. Bring you some more content. Once again, just to finish off, make sure you go follow us on TikTok, Instagram, and what else? Facebook.
YouTube.
YouTube. TikTok and Instagram is at the NGW Podcast. YouTube is my personal one, which is Coach Javi. We put all the episodes on that one. And then Facebook is the Next Goal Wins Podcast. And I think that's it. Georgie keeps saying he's going to do the Twitter, but he doesn't do the Twitter.
I'll do Twitter when...
But the Twitter is the same at the NGW Podcast.
I'll start it up when the Premier League kicks off.
And we might even do a watch-along, a live watch-along. We might do during a Premier League match or something.
I mean...
Let us know what match you'd want us to do it during.
Yep.
Man City, Liverpool. Saturday, 7:30 in the morning. Bagels.
Bagels,
right.
coffee. I'd be down.
All right. Sounds good. We'll catch you guys in the next one. Thank you.